Bitcoin is close to becoming worthless.
Let's go. Now, what's the Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's like rat poison.
Yeah. Oh,
The greatest scam in history.
let's get it.
Bitcoin will go to fucking zero.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Bitcoin Brief, the show where me and Q&A catch up every 2 weeks to talk about Bitcoin, privacy, open source, keeping your Bitcoin secure, and the news and software updates that matter. I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been supporting Ungovernable Misfits, and a big thank you to Foundation Devices for supporting the show. If you haven't already checked them out, go to foundation.xyz. They make cypherpunk tools for fuckwits, and anyone can use this, even me. If you have any questions or you want to reach out, feel free and I'll be happy to go through things with you. For anything super technical, I'll pass you on to Q. If you want to buy one of these incredible passports, use the code Ungovernable. It will get you a discount and it will let them know that I'm shilling. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to the Cake Wallet team. Not only are they supporting this show, but they're also bringing out some incredible features. For those of you who actually use Bitcoin and actually care about their privacy and security, Cake Wallet make it incredibly simple for you to live outside of the traditional financial system. You can use Cake Pay within the app to buy gift cards for food, petrol, and whatever else you might need day to day. You can use silent payments, and of course, you can use Monero. You can connect both Bitcoin and Monero nodes, use coin control, and this team are constantly innovating, and I'm really excited to be working with them. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me, but check them out at cakewallet.com, download the APK, or start using this today on Mac, Windows, Linux, iPhone, or of course your Android device. Enjoy the show. Good morning. The internet stable is beautiful, I have to say.
Good morning, mate. How are you?
Very, very good. It's been so nice speaking to you for the last 5 minutes and just hearing what you're saying, and you've been hearing what I'm saying, and we don't talk over each other, and it's been a dream.
That was a bit of a disaster last Friday, wasn't it? For those who didn't hear last Friday's Freedom Tech Friday, the live stream was, let's just say it was a testing one.
It was.
I was hosting the stream in an area of very, very low or poor signal, hotspotting through my wife's iPhone. Yeah, it was causing us some issues, wasn't it? So I think, did you take over in the end? I've kind of like wiped it from my memory and I'm mentally scarred from it.
Like PTSD. I took over halfway through, then people couldn't hear me, then they could, then we had a backing track playing like over the top of each other. We'd promised that we wouldn't do any editing on any of the live shows. Like Jordan was like, you cannot do it. You cannot do it because you'll never get all the rest of the stuff done if you're doing a weekly show on top. You have to just put them out. I have to admit, I did sit for like, I don't know, probably 4 hours or 5 hours and edit that one up because I just couldn't bear it. I was like, the audience deserve better than this. This has got to have something done. So just the like long pauses and technical, like me scratching around trying to fucking work OBS, that kind of stuff. I just cut some of that out so they didn't have to endure. So if you're listening not live, it's not quite as bad. Still a good show.
And to the handful of hardcore listeners that stuck throughout that 60 minutes, like, I take my hat off to you. I commend you, and you deserve a badge of honor in the Ungovernable
You do.
Misfits history archives.
I was talking to John about this recently, about like having patches or something. You know, like when you have like bike gangs or whatever you have, you're like 1%er patches and different patches that you can have. Maybe they can be something like that. Like they're the people that you want shoulder to shoulder on the battlefield, on the front line. If they can endure that, you know that they're going to be someone you want to fight with.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
They deserve some sort of badge or patch or, I don't know, at least a cuddle.
Yeah, a cuddle would be good. Yeah, I feel like we both needed a cuddle after that stream on Friday. I just went immediately to the fridge and opened a Corona.
Oh, I like it. Very nice.
Yeah, it was a good weekend actually. It was went down to the beach and got very sunburnt. Feeling the effects of it today.
Okay. Nice, nice. It's that pale, Welshy, whatever you are, skin, mongrelly.
Yes, yes.
Irish? Scottish? What are you? You're like a
Robot,
very pale. Yeah, I wouldn't say translucent, but pale.
definitely pale. Yeah, well, less pale, more pink at the moment.
Nice.
Anyway, we're back on the brief after a one show hiatus. So it's actually been 4 weeks. Even though it feels like I speak to you every single day of my goddamn life, it's actually
do
been
at the
4 weeks
moment.
since we recorded the Bitcoin brief.
Wow.
So apologies for avid fans of the Bitcoin brief where you had to go cold turkey for 2 weeks whilst we didn't have a release. Let's be honest, like if you're listening to the brief, the likelihood is you're listening to all the shows on Ungovernable, which again, we commend you for. So you're not going short at the moment. There's plenty of good stuff on the feed. But
is.
normal services now resumed. We're back. I'm at HQ. I have stable internet. I'm ready to get cracking and knuckle down again.
Very nice. What have we got on today? A lot going on, but I feel like we've sort of covered much of it on Friday. Any news we've missed?
Yeah, plenty of news. Before we get into some of the news items, just wanted to give a quick field report from Riga.
Oh, yeah, of course. What about that?
Listeners of Freedom Tech Friday will have heard me doing the stream 2 weeks ago with you from there, which ironically went without a hitch. But this is the first brief afterwards. So, just wanted to give a quick field report and say that, as always, at Baltic Honey Badger in Riga, in Latvia, had a wonderful time. One of the highest, well, it's not one of, it is the highest signal conference I've ever been to. Have a thoroughly good time. It always attracts a really good crowd of people. A little bit quieter this year than previous years, if I'm being honest. We had a booth, the foundation team had a booth, and to be honest, the footfall was pretty quiet at all of the booths because we were all in one row. So that was a bit, not disappointing, but unexpected. Yeah, it's always good to get together with like-minded people from the team and, from the customer base, just to share a couple of beers and meet up in a nice city and, talk about our common passions, really. I gave a talk on the Saturday morning on what else? Bitcoin privacy. More than happy to share the slides for that for anybody listening. If you're, if you've got a meetup or anything like that, or you just want some inspiration, just drop me a DM on any of the usual channels. I can share the slides over. Went through the usual, what chain analysis do, the tools and techniques that they deploy, and, most importantly, the kind of tools available to fight back and preserve your privacy whilst interacting with Bitcoin. So that was fun. Very, very nerve-wracking. The cypherpunk stage where I did the presentation was packed. So I had that little moment where I stand up on stage and see all the faces looking back at you, and my little bottom lip almost gave a little wobble. But once I got into my stride, it was okay.
Very nice. Yeah, it's always spoken so highly of, that conference. It's the one where, like, I've never heard a bad thing from anyone. It's always been, yeah, that's the best one. When you say it was a bit less footfall, like, what are we talking percentage wise? Half as many people? 25% less?
Slightly less than 50% reduction in headcount, I'd say.
Okay.
But it was a very noticeable amount. Obviously, I mentioned that the cypherpunk stage, which was one of the smaller stages upstairs, was packed, which was good to see. And, because the name gives you the clue, the cypherpunk stage, most of the talks on there were kind of more geared towards what we talk about and the kind of ethos that we share on the Ungovernable team. So it was kind of positive to see that sort of stage packed. And every time I poked my head into the main room, where they had more of the kind of, I guess, normie friendly chats where they're talking about, the usual crap about SBRs and all that sort of stuff, didn't really seem that full. So maybe that's a product of the type of people that usually go to Baltic Honey Badger. But even like at lunchtime and stuff, where people usually just gather up outside of all of the booths and chat and have a beer and stuff, just didn't seem anywhere near as busy, which obviously is not a great metric, but I still had a great time nonetheless. I also was a part of a panel on the Sunday, which, funny enough, I had no idea I was a part of until I checked the agenda. I was like, oh, cool, I'm on a panel, which was good fun. That was about kind of protecting your freedoms. And I was on there with Calais from Cashew and BitChat. Max Hillebrand of X Wasabi and now White Noise, the Noster-based kind of Signal competitor for, end-to-end encrypted DMs and group chats, and the actual developer behind that project, Jeff G, I believe he goes by. So felt a little bit out of my depth, if I'm being honest, compared to those three guys who've all produced some very technical tools and still continue to do so. And there's me, the support guy at Foundation who can just about poke his way around the terminal if he really tries.
Don't sell yourself short, mate. Don't sell yourself short. Sometimes having like a breadth of knowledge is more useful than a narrow field that you're particularly good at, I think anyway.
Jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
Can I just say, I think I came up with that.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a fun one to be a part of, actually. And again, the room was absolutely packed for that. I think they had to stop letting people in, essentially, towards the end because it wasn't even standing room only. There was no standing room left. Yeah, that was good. Oh, also, here's a funny story for you. I flew, there and back via Amsterdam because there was no direct flights from Manchester to Riga.
Of course there wasn't. You had to stop there on the way there and back, yeah?
Yeah, so on the way there, no problem. I had a 2-hour layover, loads of time. And I don't know whether you've ever been to Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, but it's huge. But 2-hour layover, no problem. Got there swimmingly, no problem whatsoever. Landed a little bit late because it was touch and go for us streaming Freedom Tech Friday. But once again, we got it out the door. But then on the way home, the only flight option that was reasonable was, again, back through Amsterdam with a 50 minute layover. So I had anxiety about it the whole weekend. I'm thinking, I'm just going to get stuck in Schiphol Airport. I'm like, if this first flight from Riga to Amsterdam doesn't go smoothly, like it's game over. Like I'm just going to be sat in the airport waiting for a transfer. So we take off from Riga on time. I'm thinking, okay, there's a chance here. There's a chance. Envisaging myself legging it through the airport. We land in Amsterdam on time. Absolutely nowhere near the terminal. Like we're parked like in a fucking field somewhere on the outskirts of Amsterdam where they park the planes. Sit there and then nobody moves. They kept the seatbelt sign on and I'm getting anxious looking at my watch thinking, fucking hell, my next flight starts boarding in like 10 minutes and I'm still sat on this one. Pilot comes on and said, sorry guys, we're just waiting for a bus. Oh, fuck's sake. So 15 minutes goes by. The bus turns up. Oh, and by the way, I'm sat at the back of the plane and they're only letting people off the front. So I'm like one of the last people off the plane as well. So get onto the bus takes it to the terminal and I'm there like psyching myself up at the bus, like getting ready to do my Usain Bolt across Schiphol Airport. Luckily, because I was one of the last on the bus, I was stood like, it was like wedged like with my face against the window or against the door. I was first to get off, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise. So the door's open and then, I've got me rucksack pegged up my back as tight as it'll go so I don't keel over.
Yeah.
Got a suitcase in one hand and my other arm helping me kind of sprint through. So pulled my Usain Bolt, got to the front of the passport queue in Schiphol Airport, which again, if you've ever flown through there, you'll know exactly how bad they can be. Mm-hmm. Knowing full well that if I just show them my boarding card and that my flight's already boarding, they'll let me skip to the front of the queue, which they did. Got through there in record time. It literally took me like 60 seconds to get through passport control.
Amazing.
And then, of course, my gate is at the end of one of the arms of the terminal. Like they all like stick out like arms of a spider sort of thing. And my gate was like D3980 or something stupid like that. So I had to leg it the full length of like D wing or the D terminal to get to it. And I shit you not, I'm not being hyperbolic here. The second that I get to the gate, the person that worked for the airline comes onto the loudspeaker and says, "Sorry guys, there's something wrong with the plane. We've got an undetermined delay, so please take a seat."
Brilliant.
I'm there dripping with sweat, thinking I've just gone through all this anxiety and sprinted from one end of the airport to the other to then get there and be like, "Yeah, we've got a delay, just take a seat and chill out." I'm there panting.
We're more connected than you know, mate, because I have done a very, very similar thing in that same airport. A few years ago, I went with a friend of mine and got absolutely fucking high as a kite. Was in the same rush and the same panic. Like, so high that I could barely fucking function, but sprinting and getting my way through that airport. We get to the gate and we're like, have we made it? And we ask someone and they're like, no, it doesn't leave for another 4 hours.
Oh my God.
We'd looked at the fucking times wrong somehow, obviously. And so we were there, like, we sprinted there, and they're like, yeah, you've got your times wrong. So, yeah, then we waited for like 4 hours in the airport. And then when we got to the other side, we'd lost all our paperwork and couldn't remember where the car was. So we searched around, walking around at like fucking whatever it was, 2 o'clock in the morning, trying to find a car in a dark car park for like an hour and a half.
Ouch.
Yeah, very good. And the last time I was in Amsterdam, I got heavily searched, like really, really heavily searched, and questioned. Oh, they actually questioned me about passport. They asked me what it was, what it does.
Oh, interesting.
They asked me. They went through everything in my bag. What's this? What does it do? What's this? Da 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 da. Like question, and then passport. What's this? And I was like, it's a password manager. And they're like, okay.
Well, technically true.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. It's a lie that doesn't reveal too much. Well, there we are, mate. I'm glad you made it.
I did.
And I'm glad that happened as well, because I'm pretty sure we said that might happen. I think we sort of said it's going to be tight.
Yeah, as soon as I saw the like less than an hour later, I thought this is definitely going to be talked about on the podcast at some point. And just to round out the story, like the delay they mentioned was only 30 minutes, so I didn't actually land or get home that much later than was originally planned anyway, so it was nice.
Very good.
Okay, a couple of housekeeping news items. Passport Core, well underway with shipping, and I think we're probably about 5 business days away from clearing the backlog entirely. So what that means is that, give or take a couple of days, by the time that this show goes out, we should be very close to basically just shipping next day, because we'll have inventory on the shelf in the factory in the US and at our EU distributor in the Netherlands, just ready to ship out straight away. So if you're one of those people that has seen the headaches and the delays that we've had and you've just been waiting till you know you can get it very quickly, we are pretty much there, give or take a couple of business days. So thank you to everybody's patience whilst we worked hard and banged our head against the supply chain gods' door. But yeah, we were almost there, 5 or so business days, and we'll be shipping next day for Passport Core.
Can I ask about Prime?
You can. That was going to be the next one. So Passport Prime, whilst I was on holiday, which again, it was after the last time we recorded the brief, Zach has done a pretty in-depth video, basically to give like a full update on how we got to this stage with Prime. He runs you through, it's quite a good like insight really as to like the goings on of the company and some of the headaches that we faced when producing this brand new device that we built from the ground up. Pretty in depth, like I think it's like 15-minute video where he gives you behind the scenes look, some of the headaches that we've had, some of the mitigations and some of the fixes that we've had to do, and then some most up-to-date kind of explainer and what's next. Basically just trying to be as transparent as possible, because we understand that there can only be so many times where a customer can be told, okay, yeah, we're close. Oh, actually now we're 2 weeks away, but in 2 weeks' time, it's like, oh, it's actually going to be another 4 weeks. Which, again, we appreciate that that's incredibly frustrating. The reason that we do that is that we give you the most accurate shipping information, estimate of production completion that we have at that time. But there's just so many moving parts that things change so quickly, and that's been the cause of these multiple short but extended delays that have got us to mid-August without having started shipping yet. So the video will be linked in the show notes. If you've got 15 minutes, it's well worth giving it a watch, especially if you're waiting for Prime. It's a really good update and was really well received, actually. And I think Zach's planning to do more of this sort of stuff if we ever find ourselves in a similar situation, because it seems that people really, really thrive on a behind the scenes look. It's all well and good of sharing information via a fortnightly or a monthly update, but the video kind of really brings it to life and enables us to kind of paint the picture much better.
It's more personal as well.
Yeah, exactly. And the last thing that we want to be seen to be doing is just sort of fobbing people off and just being like, yeah, it's 2 more weeks. But all we've ever done and all we ever will do is give people the most accurate and up-to-date information, and clearly video format is really well received here. So definitely go and check that one out.
Yeah, I know I would prefer that, because you're actually seeing a face and hearing someone who's actually doing what they can to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
I remember waiting for Star Labs.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that kept getting delayed, but that was like far less personal. It was annoying because it was just like, yeah, it's going to be another couple of weeks. Now it's going to be another couple of weeks. And
Mhm.
that's going to be, and it was like, 6 months or something like that. It never felt like there was any sort of apology or real explanation. It was just like, there is a delay.
Mhm.
Like, that's it. So, yeah, these things happen. But as long as it's upfront, and it's good to hear he's doing a video. I know you guys have all been very stressed
Yeah,
about the
definitely.
whole thing.
Definitely. And we've maintained throughout, like since the company started, this will be the second kind of pre-order product that we've done. We did the same with Passport Core, well, as batch 2, as it was called back then. And we've maintained throughout, and I don't think this is going to change anytime soon, is that full no questions asked refund if at any time during the kind of wait period in the currency that you paid in as well. So, if you want to try and buy it a little bit more privately and you do so with Bitcoin or pre-order with Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin does what Bitcoin likes to do sometimes and doubles in value, you're not kind of losing that exposure risk sort of thing. Like if you decide that you want to cancel a pre-order, then you can do that and you'll get the full amount of Bitcoin that you sent us back 6 months ago. So it's like we're the ones taking that kind of slippage risk essentially.
It's almost not a bad way of like shorting Bitcoin with a percentage of your stack, knowing that the worst case scenario is that you get some hardware.
Yeah, indeed.
It's like a sort of, what is that, a futures contract? I'm not a trader. Something like that.
Neither am I.
Sort of like a futures contract. But that is pretty cool. I think you've mentioned it before, but I'd sort of forgotten about that, to be honest. That is, I don't think I've heard of anyone else doing that.
Yeah, not sure if I'm being honest, but yeah, like I say, we like to do things as openly and fairly as possible. So that's just one of the many ways that we kind of attack it.
Yeah, because that is one of the biggest things with accepting Bitcoin. I talk about it a lot because of like our clothing and stuff like that. It's just, I find as someone who's actually selling stock, I find I almost always get fucked. If you're buying stuff with Bitcoin and then you're receiving Bitcoin back, obviously in the time between you ordering and getting a product ready and shipping and sending, in the time between then and when someone pays you, generally the price of Bitcoin is going up, just like generally as a rule. And so you then have to like work out, well, how long roughly does it take for me to move the stock that I've paid for? And then I was trying to do a calculation of like, okay, every 6 months is roughly from like when I order something to when it's ready to when it goes out the door. And then you've got to work out, well, what's the percentage change in Bitcoin on average in 6 months? And then you get into a weird situation, which is like, well, unless you want to be like silly with your markups, you can quite often just lose.
Yeah, it is. I'm not sure there's a fix for that, is there? Well, I guess there is a fix. It's
you pay in fiat.
Yeah, you pay in fiat, or if you denominated in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I've thought about that, but I just don't think. I mean, it may be okay for some of like the passport buyers, and it may be okay for some like ungovernable misfits because they're generally like more heavily into the Bitcoin world. But I think for most people, most products, it's a no. Pricing things in Bitcoin, I just don't think it's quite there for most people in their brains. We constantly lose. Like I just every time I do any clothing, I lose. I just consistently lose. I've never. I guess maybe part of that is just like bad timing. You want to sort of buy your stock when you're in the worst part of a bear market.
Yeah.
Then you want to wait 6 months and then it pumps and then people pay. No, sorry, the other way around, isn't it? It's the other way around. You want to do it the other way.
Stock when Bitcoin price is high.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing wrong. I need to buy stock when
the penny's just dropped, does it?
Yeah. Oh, that's how it works.
So that's how
you
do
buy
business.
high, sell low, isn't it?
That's where we've been wrong, mate.
That's what I've been doing wrong my whole life. For fuck's sake. Right. I'll make a note of that.
There we go. Business 101 sorted. Ungovernable Misfits is going to be the most profitable business, and we'll probably turn into a treasury company, will we, in 10 years?
I think so. It might be less.
All right, onto the list, mate. Shorter one this week for 2 reasons. No, just one reason, really. It seems that most of our favourite news article or news outlet is just not publishing at the moment. No bullshit Bitcoin. So I'm kind of scrounging around with what's left of the reputable publications, The Rage obviously being a good one. But when I was prepping for this morning's show, just looking through like the other news sites that we've got, like Bitcoin Mag, etc., trying to find useful stuff to talk about for our audience is quite difficult these days because there's no one place that you can go and it's like, oh, here's all the software updates, here's all the privacy updates. It's like, oh, Sailor's bought some sats, let's go have a wank. Or, oh, Treasury Company has bought 50 Bitcoin. Great. It's just like, obviously, we're not going to cover that sort of crap here. We're going to persist. Equally, I think maybe a call out to the listeners that if you see any or hear of any useful news articles, topics, blog posts geared towards Bitcoin sovereignty, Bitcoin privacy, Bitcoin development, that sort of stuff, just shove it under our noses.
Yeah.
We might even send you a small amount of sats to say thanks, or I will.
Ooh, in a boost or a Noster Zap or something like that.
Yeah, not only does it help us build the show, but it helps us spread the word for the show as well. So
It does.
if you did that twofold, then yeah, I would definitely come and drive to your house and give you a hug.
Oh, okay. That's nice. Think about that. Consider that if you have some information.
There you go. Without further ado, let's hit the news. And once again, some of these articles are stuff that we may have covered on Freedom Tech Friday as they were happening because they are a very important piece of information. But I thought it made sense to kind of round out the stories on the brief as well, because there may be a subset of our listeners that only listen to the brief because they're only interested in this aspect of the ungovernable empire. So, first one on the list. So the two developers who developed the privacy wallet, Samourai wallet, have pled guilty to unlicensed money transmission in the New York courthouse it was in the final week of July, actually. But as I say, it's been a while since we've recorded. The developers were charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering and conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money transmitting business last year, which could have meant that if they were found guilty on all counts, that they would have faced up to 25 years in prison each. Not great. The money laundering charge was dropped. Plea agreement is expected to be finalized by October. For now, Rodriguez has been ordered to pay a $250,000 fine, while Hill faces a fine of $400,000. In total, $237 million will be forfeited to the government, and the sentencing is set for November 6th and November 7th, respectively. On the one charge that they did take the guilty plea on, they face a maximum prison sentence of 5 years with 3 years of supervised release. And it is thought by most of the talking heads close to this one that the judge is very likely to go with the maximum sentence. You could argue that maybe that's to kind of save face. Rodriguez has been allowed to go home, but Hill, who normally resides in Portugal, has been told that he cannot leave the US and his passport has been confiscated, so he can't go back to his family, unfortunately, while he awaits sentence for the next couple of months. So yeah, another piece of information here. So basically, the guilty plea was that they engaged in a conspiracy to knowingly transmit funds on behalf of the public that were derived from criminal activity. This is under count 2 of their indictment. During the hearing, the government presented evidence of a tweet soliciting funds from Russian oligarchs. We've mentioned that before. And during the hearing, Rodriguez stated to have operated a service called Samourai Wallet, which allowed users to move Bitcoin from one address to another and obscure the transaction. He stated that he came to know that some proceeds came from criminal activity and continued Samourai Wallet operations and marketed the service to the public. He additionally stated that criminal proceeds would be obscured. The government stated to have evidence of 100,000 downloads of Samourai Wallet users. I wouldn't say that was evidence. It's fucking on the Google Play Store. Anyway, the government additionally stated that there was a hacker who used Samourai Wallet who was located in the Southern District of New York. By hacker, what they mean is one of their own, probably. I will be clear, that's conjecture, but put your thinking hats on, guys.
Yeah.
If this were to go all the way to trial, the government was prepared to provide evidence of blockchain records, business records, and testimony to this fact. In total, the government stated to have evidence of $200 million in criminal proceeds flowing through the Samourai Wallet, including funds from the darknet market, the Silk Road. Notably, the hearing made no mention of FinCEN, which had previously been at the heart of the dispute of the unlicensed money transmission charge. Once again, we've covered that in previous shows. So it seems as though this case was happening at the same time as the Tornado Cash one, and in an unexpected turn of events, I think it was like on a Tuesday or something of that last week in July, there must have been a deal made. They changed their plea to guilty for that one count, and the other ones were agreed to be dropped, resulting in them only facing a maximum prison sentence of 5 years. I firmly believe that there's going to be more information coming out in future years that maybe give us a bit more information as to how or why this deal was struck. But purely from a human perspective, for the two guys who have, gone through this hell for the last couple of years, like, it does seem like, if you're staring down the barrel of a 25 stretch, it's essentially being locked up in a cage for the rest of your adult life.
For the rest of your useful life.
Exactly that, versus a maximum of 5 years and having already time served of over a year, and then being able to get on with your life and continue to spend the remainder of your life with your family. Like, I can completely understand why they would see this as a win. So yeah, obviously still not happy that two people who were doing good work in the space potentially going to be locked away for another 4 years. But I'm happy for them, if as long as they're happy with the best deal that they've got with this kind of shit sandwich.
Happy as you can be. Yeah, it's a really weird feeling, because it's like they're people that both you and I have looked up to for such a long time, like ever since we have got involved in this space. And we've always said they're putting a huge amount of risk on themselves, even though, yeah, you're following the FinCEN guidelines and blah, blah, blah. They're always the ones who are like the standout. If you want privacy in Bitcoin on chain, this is what you do. This is how you do it. This is the way. And they did stick their head above a parapet, and now they've got the brunt of going to prison for potentially 5 years. And it's just a shit situation to see people that you respect going through this, really standing for what I saw Bitcoin as, those cypherpunk ideals and the privacy circles that we ran in. I don't know, it's just such a weird feeling. Like, it's been going on for such a long time now that you kind of like partly just take it as like, oh yeah, that's just, it is how it is. But when you really stop and think about it, it's pretty fucking disgusting.
I guess the only final positive thing you can draw from this is the fact that because the guys took a plea and that there wasn't a jury or a judge verdict here, there's kind of no precedent being set. This can't be called upon in future cases, or it would be difficult for it to be called upon as like a legal precedent to be like, oh, these guys had a non-custodial wallet and they were classified or they were found guilty of being money transmitters, which again, we've waxed lyrical about this so many times, but FinCEN says that they could not have got licensed even if they wanted to. So that precedent has not been set, which I guess is a positive for the industry for now. We seem to have not lost the battle or this part of the war as badly as we could have potentially.
Well, shout out to you guys. I'm sending love.
Absolutely. More Freedom Tech developers getting locked up, unfortunately. The Tornado Cash case also wrapped up in the same week. Well, it was actually a couple of weeks later because the jury took quite a while to come to a decision for the Roman Storm case. After nearly a 4-week proceeding in the Roman Storm case, he was found guilty on one count of conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money transmitting business under 18 US Criminal Code Section 1960. Crucially, the jury could not reach a decision on the charges of conspiracy to commit money laundering and to violate US sanctions, which resulted in a mistrial on both of those counts. So kind of a win, kind of not a win. Again, it's a bit of a mixed bag. After the trial, Roman Storm and his defense counsel have reiterated their commitment to appeal that single conviction, which is great to see. And Judge Catherine Failure rejected the prosecution's motion to take Storm into custody whilst he awaits his sentencing, stating that we don't think he's a flight risk, essentially. As with the Samourai case, the 1960 count that Roman Storm was found guilty of by the jury carries a maximum potential sentence of 5 years. Hopefully less time served. Again, I think he's already been under kind of some form of arrest for quite a while. Very mixed bag. You could look at it as a positive that the jury took so long to come to a verdict and that, they only found him guilty on one of the money transmission conspiracy, and that the two bigger charges, if you like, they were unable to draw a unanimous decision on. However, the downside to this one is that if Roman Storm appeals and loses, then we do have legal precedent here that there was a non-custodial tool and the money transmission conspiracy charge is stuck, because that did go all the way to a jury verdict. And also because Roman Storm hasn't taken a plea, the prosecution can come back here and try, if they want to, the other two charges, the money laundering and the US sanctions. So even if he appeals and wins or appeals and loses, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the end of the road for this case, because the prosecution could pursue further action if they want to. So again, a bit of a mixed bag. Obviously not happy that, another open source developer's getting locked up for producing freedom technology, but I'm kind of feeling positive at his outset. And I wish I had the quote in front of me here, but basically when one of the reporters gave him a question about how he's feeling after the result. He used something to the effect of, yeah, obviously we're going to fight this because the money transmission conspiracy charge is complete bullshit. So that's nice to hear. And obviously we wish him the best of luck in the appeal. No timelines yet as to how long that would take, but I believe, again, his sentencing will be coming around the same time as the Samourai guys, because the case happened in and around the same kind of couple of week period. So expect more news around October or November. Okay, on to some more. Let's go to some more positive news. Whilst I was in Riga, the Ark Labs team have quietly, and I love the way that they did it, ran an experiment to do the first live Ark release, essentially. Not necessarily a release, but a first implementation. The way in which they did it is that, as with most conferences, Riga being no different, all of the merchants there that are doing the beer, the coffees, the food and stuff, they get help by the organizers to accept Bitcoin, because you're at a Bitcoin conference, and especially ones like Riga where people actually like to spend Bitcoin rather than the Vegas hype shows. It's important that the merchants are able to do so. Normally, in recent years at Riga, it's been BTC Pay server type thing where they host all the backend and the merchants have a terminal. This year was no different. The only difference being that, unbeknownst to everybody at the conference, apart from a handful of people, rather than it being a traditional BTC Pay server backend where there's hosted Lightning channels or a trusted third party or something like that, it was all powered by a live version of Ark, which we believe is the very first one. And they didn't tell anybody; they just did it. I bought a couple of beers, a couple of coffees, some burgers and things like that, all via the usual terminals. And I had no idea. I just assumed it was just a normal BTC Pay terminal. Everything worked flawlessly, paying from my own node. Also did a bit from Phoenix. And it was all just working swimmingly. And then the next minute, Mr. Cooks, who previously did work at or contribute to BTC Pay, who now works for Ark Labs, just came over and he said, "Have you bought any food outside?" I was like, "Yeah, I've had a couple of bits and bobs." And he's like, "Oh yeah, did you know that that's all running on Ark?" And like nobody had any idea. And quickly the word got round, and we were like, "Holy fuck!" Like it's not just vaporware. Like people are actually using it, and they it's that good that they didn't even know. People were just paying Lightning invoices. It was confirming, or it was being confirmed straight away, and people were getting their food and their coffee and completely none the wiser. So I thought that was very, very cool. And the other cool bit here, I guess, is that rather than in previous years where the merchants essentially just trusted whoever's powering all the backends and they just have a custodial wallet and then they settle up at the end, this time around, in theory, like they would have all had virtual UTXOs that they could have unilaterally exited and taken back, even if in the extremely unlikely event that the people behind Baltic Honey Badger wanted to rug those merchants. Can't do it, because that's one of the beautiful parts of Ark, is that you have this unilateral exit. So the fact that they've achieved all of that, didn't tell anybody, and it all just worked flawlessly, was pretty mind-blowing for me. So that was very cool.
I like that way of operating. Just do something, have it work so well that no one even realizes that anything's changed, and then just quietly, it's running on Ark. That's a cool way of doing things. That's the reverse of what you usually see. I like that.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, I literally had no idea whatsoever. After he told me, they also had a very early alpha piece of software of a progressive web app wallet that could interact with that Ark system as well. So I put a few hundred sats into that as well and started testing that. The UI side of that is very alpha software, a little bit buggy, but like the back end stuff that they've got running on all of these POS terminals, which if you click the link in the show notes of this part of the podcast, you'll see the images of it. It links to a tweet from Ark Labs or a tweet thread. Yeah, just want to take my hats off to them and be like, yeah, like you said, Max, I really enjoy the way that they've operated here, and very, very promising that of how quickly not only have they shipped this sort of stuff and it used real funds for it, makes me very bullish for what the next couple of years is going to hold for this protocol and what it can do.
Interesting, because for a long time we talked about Ark a fair bit. We've always been like, we'll see,
give it 10 years,
let's see if anything happens, kind of thing. It's been like, okay, kind of interesting, cool in theory, maybe not going to give it too much attention because it could just be vaporware, but that does make my ears prick up a little bit more and just be like, okay, maybe this is something that's happening.
Yeah, indeed. I believe they've got a pretty cool team back there as well. So they clearly like to ship things quickly and efficiently. So more power to them. And I'm looking forward to seeing more wallets integrating with this sort of stuff.
Oh, Restekpa.
Restekpa, indeed. I'm not going to go too deep into this one because I know you and John will probably do so on the mining show, but just very, very cool. And it's one of the, my favorite news articles of this week, at least, is that Block have launched their modular Bitcoin miner. I believe it's just called Rig, alongside some free and open source mining software as well. Have you seen any pictures of this, Max, or videos?
I think I've seen a couple of pictures, no videos. Not really looked into it. With all the mining stuff, to be honest with you, at this point in life, I just wait for John to sort of hold my hand and walk me through things. And so I know I'm going to be speaking to him next Monday, so I'll wait for that. But what do you know? Tell me.
Yeah, well, I won't go into all of the efficiencies and stuff. That's just very much John's forte and how they compare with other rigs. The thing I like here, right, is the modular aspect of it. It's always blown my mind that with miners, essentially, if you get one hashboard go down, you have to kind of take the whole miner offline, go and repair stuff, and you're tied into like a singular manufacturer and like things like, again, they're the opposite of modular essentially. And if you're running a big operation, that can be quite a big overhead. Whereas here, it's essentially just like a box with a load of hashboards in it in a uniform setup, such that you can swap those out quite easily. The fans are standardized, and it just seems like you can buy the overall package once and then in 5 years' time just rip out the hashboards and put some more new efficient ones in to get the benefits of the way that the technology is progressing without having to replace the whole setup.
I'm going to make a prediction here. I have a feeling that John will take the other side of that and he'll say something like, nah, they're gay. They're pointless. There'll be going to be something grumpy and old manish from him about this, and I just feel it in my bones. I don't know what it's going to be. It will either be like it's unnecessary, it's hype, or the parts are too expensive, or there'll be something where he's going to grumble. That's my guess, but maybe I'm proved wrong.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And again, I'm not even going to profess for this to be my area of expertise whatsoever. But the other open-ended thing is I don't believe they've announced the price yet, which is obviously kind of pivotal in all this.
There we go.
So if it comes out and it's like 20% more expensive than the next best machine, then again, you and John have said this loads of times, like mining is not an altruistic thing. Like you're there to make profit and every penny counts because it's cutthroat. So if this thing comes out and it's not priced well, then I don't know whether it's going to do very well.
Yeah, these guys are so quick at stripping down a machine and rebuilding them, and they keep parts because, when you've got a farm and okay, they know things like, one in every 100 machines is going to blow a board every X amount of time roughly. And so I'll keep enough of those to get me through problems. And I have the fans and I have this, and they kind of like nothing's perfect, but they seem to have this stuff on lock basically. So it's one of those, like, unless there's a massive improvement in efficiency or price or ease of use or whatever it is, they kind of stick to what they know and what they've got. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if the cost of the hash is as good or better and the reliability of the machines is as good or better and they're easier to work on and all that kind of stuff and the modular, then I don't see why people wouldn't start using it. But I don't know. I can almost hear his grumbles.
Looking forward to hearing that one. And I think just to cap this one off, aside from all of that technical stuff, which I'm sure John is going to cover off really well, the thing I'm most optimistic about here is just having another player in the space so that it's not just fucking MicroBT and Bitmain dominating the market. Like hopefully...
An Avalon.
An Avalon, yeah. Yeah, again, I've got no idea of the size of them compared to the previous two I've just mentioned, but it's promising to me to see another one coming out that is also open source as well. But, we'll see whether they stand the test of time. Yeah. God knows they've got enough money behind them to see whether they can sink or swim.
Yeah.
Okay, last news article for this week. Once again, we covered this on last Friday's disastrous Freedom Tech Friday, so maybe it might be worthwhile us recapping this because we might have been talking over each other for half of it. But Google Play Store gave us a little scare last week, Max, didn't they?
They did. They certainly did.
The Rage, again, shout out The Rage, spotted that the Google Play Store introduced a policy in, I think it was like Tuesday or Wednesday last week, that required any software developer to obtain a license before publishing a cryptocurrency wallet app to the Play Store. And this is, quote, to ensure a safe and compliant ecosystem for our users and to keep the children safe, obviously.
Of course.
Policy targeted 15 jurisdictions, including the European Union, the United States, and it laid out which regulations the Play Store expected software wallet developer to comply with relative to their jurisdictions. These mainly covered off, in the big jurisdictions, the money service business with FinCEN. Once again, we've talked about that so many times. The big one in the EU is MiCA, M-I-C-A. Again, that's a bullshit acronym for something. Basically saying that all cryptocurrency wallets, non-custodial or custodial, needed to comply with these, which, again, was met with uproar from the ecosystem because that is the polar opposite of what both FinCEN and MiCA in the EU tell us is required. Both of those say, if you're non-custodial, we will not regulate you and you cannot get a license from us. But Google Play Store at the time was like, yeah, you need to go and get one. People weren't very happy. And basically, for 24 hours, there was a thought that all non-custodial wallets that weren't willing to comply with these bogus regulations that they couldn't get regulated by, even if they tried to, was essentially going to mean that all of these types of apps like Envoy, Cake, Zeus, etc., would essentially just be removed from Play Store, which would, reduce the adoption or the usage of that by roughly 50% if we assume a 50-50 split between Android and iOS. Thankfully, roughly 36 hours later, somebody at Google saw all of the tweets that they were getting and realized that they'd made a little bit of a boo-boo. So they walked it back and essentially said, we got this wrong. This does not apply to non-custodial wallets, and we're going to update the policy to reflect what is actually not only common sense, but defined by the regulators that we said you needed to go and get regulated by. So everybody breathed a sigh of relief. And then, as always with Bitcoin, then the speculation ensued as to whether this was actually, an honest mistake, maybe by an intern who just manages the documentation at Google, or whether this was a little bit more underhand and they were kind of dipping their toes in, maybe off their own back, or maybe under the direction of a higher power in a certain jurisdiction to be like, just put this out there and let's just see what happens. I am unconvinced on either at the moment, or I can see a case for both. And I guess ultimately we'll probably never know. But once again, shout out to the Rage for causing a massive rage with this one, understandably so. Thankfully, it seems like we won this one, but it is once again a stark reminder, and I think you said this on Friday, Max, to the fragility of, or the centralization of kind of app distribution for Bitcoin wallets.
Yeah, very fragile. If you haven't already listened, go back and listen to the Freedom Tech Friday that we just released a couple of days ago. We do go into some different theories and what we think might actually be happening behind the scenes, and why we think things are fragile, and then also what would happen if this did go through and how would it be fought. So I think it's worth a listen.
Absolutely. Co-sign that one. Right, let's hit some boost, shall we?
Let's do it.
Pies with 420 sats.
Hey, chingity ching.
Says, yo, mushroom, hug, strong arm, salute. AIBLE, 100 sats. Great episode, gentlemen. Revian Stokes, 500 sats, says, here a TRX at 0 sat per VByte. Now, I'm intrigued to see more information on this one, because I'm trying to work out whether they've sent a boost via a 0 sat transaction. There was no other context there. But I was thinking, if they did do that, that's very cool, and I want more information. So, Revian Stokes, thank you for your 500 sats, but please boost again and let us know, give us a bit more context here, because if you did do that, I need to know more.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool if that's what he's done.
Silas Thornbrook, 500 sats. Happy to report I'm healing well from emergency surgery. I appreciate it, guys. On another note, I can't believe that my penis got brought up on the show. Always ungovernable, stay free.
Oh, glad to hear you've recovered, mate.
Yes, glad to hear your penis as well.
Yeah.
Silas Thornbrook, once again, another 500 sats. Always ungovernable. Thank you, gentlemen. Stay free. And final one from the previous brief is Poopsicle with 300 sats and says that they were an ungovernable misfit in grade school. What were you like in primary school, as it were, for us? For the Yanks, that's between the ages of 6 and 11. I imagine you to be a bit of a naughty boy in school, Max.
Oh my God. Yeah. I was very, very, very bad. I was suspended, very close to being expelled. I always had straight E's and straight U's, which is uncontrollable, unmanageable, and unmarkable. I got suspended for selling porn and cigarettes at 9 years old.
Porn mags.
No, what I used to do is I used to break into the computer science department place, steal all their floppy disks, and then my dad used to run pubs. So, like, if I ever stayed with my dad, I'd never see him because he'd be running the pub. So upstairs, he had a computer that had internet connection. It was like quite early with all of that. And so what I used to do is just like go and get pictures off. It wouldn't have been Google, it would have been Jeeves or whatever it was. Download those, put them onto floppy disks, and then I used to sell them for £5 a floppy disk because I went to a posh school. So, and then I used to steal cigarettes and I used to sell them for like £1 or £2 per cigarette. I got caught doing that because a kid, this little fat kid at my school, his mum walked in while he was wanking, and he was like, she was like, "Where did you get this from?" And he was like, "Oh, I bought it off Max." Yeah, I got in trouble for that, got suspended, and then I got in more trouble because I bitch slapped that kid in assembly in front of everyone. I was awful, mate. I was honestly absolutely awful, and now I'm starting to see that that's been passed down because my kids are truly ungovernable.
I don't know what's more amazing about that story. The fact that you probably destroyed your dad's computer by downloading porn from all sorts of different places. That must have been like
Probably.
the most malware-ridden computer in in the whole land. Or the fact that you were selling them on fucking floppy disks.
Floppy disks, yeah. It was just pictures. It was like pictures on floppy disk. And what was really remarkable was my markup. It was 100%.
Yeah.
And £5 back then was quite a lot. And a lot of people wanted my merchandise, I can tell you.
I was quite impressed by the markup on the cigarettes as well, because I believe, I'm not going to dox us here, but we're of a similar age, and the going rate in my school when we were of that age was a lot less than a quid a fag.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could buy a pack of fags for a couple of quid then, and I paid nothing. I stole mine, obviously. So, yeah, it was. Yeah, I was awful, mate. I imagine you were a good boy, like a very studious person who found the work to be maybe slightly too easy, and it wasn't really a problem. Is that right?
No, I was always relatively well behaved. I was bang average at pretty much all subjects. I was never like top of the class, but I wasn't like one of the drongos that needed like special assistance or anything like that. I was just like, stay in the middle, be the grey man. That was kind of me in school.
Okay.
Ironically, never had a detention, but did get suspended once for a week.
Oh.
So one of my
selling porn?
Yeah, on floppy disks. No, one of my friends bought in like a plastic ball bearing gun. It was at like break time and stuff, and we were all just dicking about with it. I was the one that got caught with it in my hand when one of the teachers walked in. So had to take the fall and basically just got suspended and threatened with police action and stuff. You know, they try and scare you when you're like 11 years old.
Yeah.
Like, you feel like it's the end of the world and that you're never going to get a job and stuff. But yeah, ironically, I'd never had detention once, but yeah, did manage to get myself suspended just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong weapon in hand.
I like it. There were such good times when you look back. Actually, there were simpler times, weren't they?
They really were. Like,
even if you were,
like I have like flashbacks every now and again. I remember like my parents going, "Oh yeah, enjoy it while you can," and at the time you think, "Oh fuck off, you old fart." And now I'm saying that to my kids, so I'm like, "Oh, we've come full circle."
I know. Now we're the old fucks.
Yeah.
Oh, do you reckon we would have been mates at school? We could have been.
I reckon so. I'd definitely have bought porn off you.
I think so. Yeah, and cigarettes probably.
Yeah, maybe not cigarettes. I wasn't really a smoker.
But we wouldn't be sat in detention. I was in detention every single day. Every single day. It was like, you've got detention. I'm like, what's fucking you, man? I'm already in there. Don't worry about it. There was like 2 or 3 of us who were just always in trouble. The 3 of us who were worst at school, I would say, are 3 of the most like we've done okay in life. They were always like, oh, you're gonna fucking be nothing. You're gonna be sweeping the streets. You're gonna be this. You're like really like you're fucked basically. And actually, we've all somehow turned out like relatively okay. So I don't know. Maybe being ungovernable, there's something to it.
There you go. Ungovernable from an early age. Mine was a learned skill in my early
Yeah.
20s. All right, software releases. Let's fly through these, and then we'll get
Yep.
off and enjoy the rest of our day. Envoy version.
I'm going to take a massive piss.
Yes, I am, but getting close. Envoy 2.0.2 is a bug fix release where we had the big 2.0 release about a month ago that laid all of the groundwork for the upcoming Passport Prime, including all of the connectivity. And at the same time, we upgraded to BDK 2.0, which was the underlying framework that powers 99% of what we do in Envoy. That was a huge change, and inevitably it introduced a number of bugs. So 2.0.2 fixes all of the ones that we know about. The main one of which was people getting stuck at the kind of syncing screen, so they couldn't actually get into the application and kind of sync all of their balances. The weird thing was it only seemed to affect certain customers, which was strange. But in all of those cases, 2.0.2 fixes it. So you have any bugs whatsoever, make sure you're upgraded to the latest version, because there's loads and loads of fixes in there, and it will be a drastic improvement to your stability of the Envoy app. Next up, Passport 2.3.9, another small bug fix release. This one just fixes a signing error for some multi-sig users that was introduced in a previous release. Other than that, there is just one fix for improved error handling, such that it doesn't just throw a random error, it actually gives you something human readable, so that if you do hit something similar in the future, you won't just be met with a load of code. So yeah, once again, small release, but a nice quality of life improvement. Phoenix version 2.6.4 has been released. They've added a look ahead to on-chain wallet. So Phoenix now looks for 3 addresses past the first unused index. This helps in some edge cases where funds would have been deposited to an address past the first unused index and were not taken into account by Phoenix, which is a strange one to me, because like this is what we more commonly refer to as a gap limit, where it's the gap limit is essentially how far the wallet will stop looking past the last known address that's been used, basically. And the fact that they've now only added it, and it's only 3 addresses, is strange to me. I don't know why they wouldn't use the industry standard of 20. Maybe it's because of the way that their sync works, that it would take too long or not. I don't know, but I guess it's good that they've at least added some form of gap limit to kind of take into account for maybe for users that have kind of imported an existing wallet, which I know is not a common way to use Phoenix. So, that's probably why they've not had it before. Most people just spin up a new one and then interact with Lightning from there. But good introduction nonetheless. Okay. Cake Wallet 5.2.0. I don't know whether you've covered this on the show with Seth. Version 5.2.0 is here. Unleash your desktop. Track your BTC safely and stay connected. This is not my words, by the way. I'm reading the release notes.
Yeah.
I like this. Whoever their main dev is clearly very enthused by this. Get ready for another feature-packed update. Version 5.2.0 brings powerful new tools to our desktop app. It introduces a secure way to watch your Bitcoin and makes your connection to the blockchain smarter and stronger than ever before. Nice. So what's new?
Nice.
Ledger on the desktop is live, so you can now use your Ledger with Cake Wallet desktop. They've introduced view-only wallets so that you can kind of throw an XPub in there and kind of track all of your cold storage stuff. They've got new automatic node switching, so your wallet now intelligently...
Oh, yeah, we did cover that.
You did cover it. Your wallet now intelligently finds the best connection, ensuring your app is always in sync. Oh, so does that mean that you can kind of define multiple nodes and it will just, if one fails, it'll fall back to a new one?
It will automatically switch. Yeah, but I did ask him about this and he said you can turn this off and you can disable that feature.
Okay.
Because, for example, you might be connected to a Tor node and you specifically want only to be connected to that, and so it won't automatically switch. But for a lot of people, it's like, they'll have the Cake Wallet one that you can connect to, and then if for any reason there's any issue with that, it will just automatically jump to the next one and connect, so that you just have a seamless experience.
Nice.
But it is, you can adjust it, basically, because that was my question to him, is that sounds like that could be a problem for some people, but all right, it can be adjusted.
Sweet. Okay, cool. RoboSats version 0.8.1 alpha. Once again, emphasis on alpha. Don't run and do this if you're doing or you don't want to be part of the test group. What's new? They've got a brand new mobile app and mobile view. They've got new in-app private notification system using Noster. So that could be pretty useful for when you're midway through a trade and you're kind of away from your computer maybe, or you're not using the mobile application, being able to get a Nostr DM to be like, hey, the trader has done their bit, you need to deposit the Bitcoin now, or something similar to that effect. That's pretty cool. And then there's also something called revertible payments warning. I'm not sure what that is, but
Okay.
I'll have to test that one out. I'll test the new mobile app, definitely. I used their mobile app when it first came out quite a while ago, and it was, pretty early. So I'm keen to see what improvements they've made to mobile view of the application. And finally, Blue Wallet version 7.2.0. It seems like a massive bug fix release of what looks to be well over 100 fixes that I'm not going to bore you with right now. But if you are a Blue Wallet user, definitely go and check that one out. But there seems to be a lot of kind of dependency updates and bug fixes as well. So nice to see them still cranking out releases over at Blue.
Yeah.
That's all I've got for the list, my friend. A bit of a short one, as I say, and we're missing No Bullshit Bitcoin here at the Ungovernable headquarters. So, if you're out there, No Bullshit Bitcoin team, please come back.
Yeah, please come back. And if you're listening to this and you've got some updates or software we should be talking about, do let us know. Send it in the boosts, or jump in on a Freedom Tech Friday and let us know there, or wherever it is. Just get in contact. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. All right, guys.
Okay. Well, enjoy your piss, mate. And I'm sure I'll speak to you in the next couple of days.
You will indeed. Take it easy, dude.
All right, mate.
Before you go, MYNYMBOX.io help keep your online presence hidden. They provide anonymous server hosting solutions, virtual, private, and dedicated servers, domain registration, and DNS parking. They don't require any of your personal information, and you can purchase using Bitcoin, Lightning, or Monero. No personal information required. None. Zero. MYNYMBOX.io. Stay ungovernable.